Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here at TD Arena in Charleston, and tonight the honeymoon phase under Mark Byington ended for Vanderbilt basketball. The Commodores lose their first game with their first-year head coach, moved to 6-1 on the season, and I think the story of the night, it was a clinic by Ben McCollum's Drake team. I thought Drake made Vanderbilt pay extra for every mistake. It out-rebounded Vanderbilt 37-20, and I think that's probably the most concerning thing if you're a Vanderbilt fan coming out of the night tonight. Mark Byington admitted that there wasn't a huge physical mismatch, but Drake seemed to be there every time the ball got off the glass, and I think that was kind of a microcosm of the night, right? It wasn't only the glass where Drake beat Vanderbilt. It felt like it moved it better. It knew what it was going to do every time down the floor, and it executed that plan. It actually had more turnovers than Vanderbilt by a pretty significant margin, but it certainly didn't feel that way. It felt like Drake was the team making the extra pass. Drake was the team who dominated in the front court, honestly. Their center had 18 points tonight. His career high was 20. That gives you any perspective. I actually tweeted early in this game, Drake is not going to be physically imposing to Vanderbilt, and it was completely false, right? Drake dominated Vanderbilt on the glass and blocked five of Vanderbilt shots. If you were to switch uniforms, I would have guessed Drake was the SEC team tonight, and I don't know that that's as much of a slight to Vanderbilt as it is praise to Drake. I think that's a team that is really good, has a chance to win a good MVC league this year. I think there's a lot of parity in that league, but kind of besides the point. Like I said, I think Vanderbilt had to pay extra for every mistake tonight, not only because of the glass, but just because of the way Drake is able to execute their stuff. Ben McCollum was kind of a wizard, and Vanderbilt's not going to be able to beat a team like that shooting 19% from three, right? They shot 21 threes, made 4 of them, missed some crucial free throws, and I think the big story offensively is Vanderbilt wasn't able to move the ball the way that I think it's capable of, and Mark Byington said that when I asked him about Jason Edwards. It actually came across kind of a softball, but I had asked him that kind of with the intention of seeing, did he think the ball needed to be moved a little bit more, and that was going to be my follow-up, and he did. He said there was too many guys tonight who almost were trying to be the hero in a sense. I don't know if that was his exact wording, but that's kind of what I took from it, and I think that was a lot of the reason that Vanderbilt's turnovers weren't super high, but it felt like there were a lot of empty possessions, right? Jason Edwards was their only double-figure scorer, and he did some really good things tonight. Mark Byington said he liked his aggressiveness, and I think that's a real story, too, is Jason Edwards' aggressiveness. He was all Charleston Classic first team in terms of the tournament team. Scoring numbers were good tonight. I don't think he necessarily made a whole lot of guys better tonight. And I think Vanderbilt cannot pin this on Jason Edwards' shot selection either. I think they've got to have their guys step up, right? Hogarth had 7, was 4 of 12 from the field. He got his fair share of shots. He had 1 less than Edwards, right? Tyler Nickel was not involved, and even when he was involved, had 2 of the worst misses I've seen from him all season, probably the 2 worst misses. I thought Jalen Carey and Devin McLaughlin needed to give them a lot more, and I thought they would give them a lot more against an undersized front court. Drake showed to have some athletes there, but Vanderbilt should not be worried about MVC athletes in the front court, right? And they were tonight. I think Drake's athletes out-athleted Vanderbilt in the front court tonight, and that's a problem. That can't happen, and I think I've been a little wishy-washy, and I still kind of am on what this team is in the front court, because you look at Cal, and I thought Vanderbilt ran Cal's bigs off the floor and was really good against them. You look at last night, I thought they were better than Seton Hall's bigs, but you look at tonight and say, man, Vanderbilt's gotten out-rebounded in 5 of its last 7 games. Tonight was the most decisive rebounding loss they've had on the season, and I think it's a little worrisome, to be quite honest with you. Vanderbilt has to be able to get more out of Jalen Carey and Devin McLaughlin, and I think a story tonight as well is Devin McLaughlin only played 5 minutes in the second half. Mark Byington did say that was due to a tweak. I don't know where the tweak is, but that was minor. He also said he's not sure what Alex Hemingway's timeline is or if there's an update on him. So Vanderbilt, I don't think, is fully healthy and can maybe use the week, but that's no excuse. Drake was flat out better than them tonight. And I think Drake was flat out better than all 3 teams they played. They out-rebounded all 3 teams. So this is a team that is more technically sound than Vanderbilt. It made the right play, and I just don't think Vanderbilt was able to keep up with it. Mark Byington said that if they were within a couple points at the end of the game, he thought they had a shot, and I don't see why they wouldn't have a shot. I think they would maybe even know how to win more than Drake based off their prior season experience. But Drake got it out to 8 and 10, and Mark Byington kind of said Vanderbilt lost itself. And I think you saw in a lot of ways they were taking bad shots. Their go-to guys outside of Jason Edwards were not playing like go-to guys tonight. And it's really hard to win that way, especially against a team who, like Byington said, I think it was Jim Larinaga a few days ago said, Drake's going to make you pay for every mistake and maybe pay a little bit extra. That's a team that's really good, and I think woke a lot of people up this weekend. This isn't a loss that's going to necessarily kill their KenPom. Drake is 90th in KenPom, and I do think the margin of victory matters. Drake won by 11. Vanderbilt was a 4.5-point favorite. That's certainly going to hurt them. But I don't think this is Presbyterian. I don't think this is Western Carolina or anything along those lines. I think it's a good team that had Vanderbilt's number and beat Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's possessions were not too far off from the rest of the weekend. So I'm not necessarily saying that Drake made Vanderbilt play with its left hand all night. But when Drake would go down, it just felt like they had more of a plan than Vanderbilt did. And Vanderbilt, for one of the first times this season, kind of felt like an iso ball team to me. I think the ball needs to move a little bit more. People get mad about me complaining about their shot selection, but I think tonight it could have been a little bit better. I think they took some shots off bad platforms. I think Jason Edwards maybe took a few bad ones, but that's not the story of the night, right? The story is Vanderbilt had a chance to be champions in this event and wasn't. And I think the bigger story on a national level, rather than Vanderbilt's incompetence, which I don't think is a thing, is, man, Drake is really good. And Drake woke a lot of people up this weekend. It beat Miami, it beat FAU yesterday, and it beat Vanderbilt today. Vanderbilt should not be losing to MVC teams, but I think there is a little more nuance to this discussion than just that, which we were looking at last year and saying, man, they're at rock bottom. I don't think that marks this, but I do think it marks the end of the honeymoon phase. Mark Byington's got to teach off of a loss now. His team's got to respond to a loss, and I think they will on Friday against Tennessee Tech, but they've got some questions to answer now. They haven't shot it well throughout a lot of the season. They've got some real front court questions. And I think for a lot of the season, they've been close enough in the rebounding battle to where you can kind of justify it and say, well, it's not killing them, even though they're a little bit undersized there. Tonight it killed them. And I think that was more so a result of Drake being more fundamentally sound on the glass and just being better rebounders, honestly. It wasn't as much of a size thing, because I think Vanderbilt had the size advantage. But I do think you look at this weekend and say they had a good weekend. I think their resume got better this weekend. They beat Seton Hall. I think that'll be a quad 2 when it's all said and done, probably on a neutral floor. I think their one loss from this weekend is probably going to be a quad 2, maybe a quad 3. I think it would hurt them if it's a quad 3, but if it's a quad 2 like it is now, not really going to hurt them. And their first night, they beat Nevada, and I think that's going to be maybe a quad 1, maybe a quad 2 win. They got a better resume this weekend, and I think that's what you look at as a positive coming out of the weekend, but they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to go beat SEC teams. They also don't have to be perfect in SEC play. They don't have to be perfect in non-conference play either. I think you're looking at it and saying, well, let's see if they can go 10-3 and win 8 games in SEC play, and they've got a chance at the tournament. Right now, I think they're more than on pace for that. You look at Virginia Tech, that's a really beatable team. Lost to Jacksonville the other night. TCU, I think, is beatable. There's a world in which Vanderbilt only loses one more game in non-conference play. I think that's probably what I would set the line at right now. And that is not a terrible thing for this group. I think they can still come out of non-conference play with a really good resume. If they went 0-3 this weekend, I think you would hit the panic button. But Mark Byington said before the weekend, you're going to learn a lot about this team. I think Vanderbilt learned some things about itself, and it learned some things tonight that I think make me a little bit hesitant to say they're a tournament team. But it also learned a lot of good things. You look at Tyler Nickel last night at 24. He didn't have a great night tonight, but Jason Edwards stepped up. Neither of them really stepped up the first night. I thought Edwards was solid. Collins was solid too. But also, A.J. Hogarth stepped up that night. So they've had 3 different guys turn in pretty good performances, and Devin McLaughlin was the guy early in the season. I am a little worried about the balance coming out of tonight, and I'm also worried about them playing to the level of competition a little bit as we go in non-conference play, because I think a team could maybe sneak up on them. So, I don't know. There's some things coming out of tonight I'm a little worried about, but certainly don't think it's time to hit the panic button. I think Vanderbilt basketball is in a healthy place coming out of tonight, and I think had a good weekend overall. So, again, don't buy into Vanderbilt lost to an MVC team. You saw my reactions last year. I'm not a advocate for losing to mid-majors by any means, but also Drake's a really good team. That could be a tournament team. And it's not going to kill their Ken Palm. It's not going to kill their net. Not the end of the world. And that's kind of my summation of the night. I think they did some things really poorly tonight. Got some question marks. But overall, really solid weekend for Vanderbilt basketball, and they leave with a better resume than they came in with. I don't know how you can necessarily complain about that at this point. So I'm Joey Dwyer for the last time from the Charleston Classic. Thank you guys for the opportunity to be here. Would not be here without all you watching. And we'll talk to you soon. I think Brandon will have the rapid reaction on Friday. And again, we'll talk soon. Peace.